I am Christina Suter, and this is the Real Estate Breakthrough Show, where we talk about the reality of real estate, the mindset you need in order to face the reality of what it is, and tips and tricks to get you moving forward in investing. I am your host, Christina Suter. Hey you, this is Christina Suter with Real Estate Breakthrough. Excited to have you here on the show today. I have Dave Dubeau with me, who I am excited about. I think I said his last name correctly. I'm always clubbing on thank you very much. It's wonderful to have you here. And I think I'm looking forward to your conversation about, I mean, it's not just that you're a podcaster, but what is it's behind your podcasting and that you intentionally use that inside the real estate field. So first, let's talk a little bit about your background. What even brought you to today? Don't start at 2, by the way. Start a little older than 2 years old if you
older. Oh, darn.
I know. So many demands.
So recently. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I loved our conversation on my show. So as you can hear from the accent, I'm Canadian, and I actually lived after I graduated from university. We got something in common there. You've got a master's in psychology. I've got a BA, which I call a basically asinine degree in psychology myself.
Yes.
So after I graduated, I wasn't getting, the door beaten down with job offers. So I decided to go travel for a bit and traveled for about 2.5 years through Mexico and Central America, ended up in Costa Rica, liked it a lot, decided to plant my flag, so to speak, ended up starting a language training company down there, lived there for 10 years, got married, had kids, the whole bit. And then in 2003, my kids were getting towards school age, and I dragged my Costa Rican wife and 2 Costa Rican kids kicking and screaming back to the frozen hinterlands of British Columbia, Canada, and started all over again from scratch. Actually, they came willingly, but people go, tropical paradise, British Columbia, what's going on here? Right. Well, you don't realize what you don't have until you're gone for a while. Yeah. So Costa Rica is great, love it, but Canada, we thought, and I agree, is a much better place to raise our kids. So that's what we did. And then Christina, I had to kind of start all over again from scratch because I hadn't been able to sell my language company in Costa Rica, didn't have much money, had been outside of the country so long. I didn't have bad credit. I had zero credit. So, I was starting all over again from scratch. And I saw, do you remember these? You probably do. Back in the day, those late night infomercials, something like, you too can get rich in real estate with little or no money down.
Oh, I like that effect. I'm going to have to borrow that in the future.
So I said, perfect. That's what I got, little or no money. So I sent away for this course, and I think I got some CDs, maybe a VHS cassette or 2 or whatever. It was early 2000s. Right. And jumped into real estate and did a bunch of deals, did 18 deals in 18 months in the small city that we were living in. So that sounds impressive. Some of them were okay and relatively impressive. Most of them were crappy little
I was going to say,
homes.
I know what 18 deals in 18 months can look like. And so I'm somewhere between amazed and feeling sorry for you. Just saying.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But anyhow, got into it, and that's what was keeping the lights on. That was what was bringing home the bacon. Yeah. And my background, my passion had been in marketing, and I ended up connecting with a up-and-coming real estate guru up here in Canada, kind of the Canadian version of Rich Dad. And we ended up kind of joining forces. I helped him market his company and get cheeks and seats for seminars and all that kind of stuff. Got out of real estate for a while, got back into it, did a whole bunch of rent-own type deals, got out of that for a while, got divorced, got into some multifamily type stuff. Okay. So lately, the last dozen years or so, I've been working more as a consultant on the consulting side of things, and from time to time as a limited partner with some of our clients in deals. So I'm not I realized early days, I kind of suck as a hands-on investor, to be perfectly honest with you, Christina. I'm not good with tenants. I'm even worse with toilets. None of that stuff turns my crank. So from time to time, I partner with clients and invest passively.
Okay. And I will also partner with clients, but I'll be the active partner with the clients. And I didn't go into that on a previous show, but I can go into all the reasons why I've chosen to do that, but that's okay. It's all good. What's important is you actively work with people, but you don't work with people in directly ownership. So what is it that you do with your clients?
Yeah, so we help capital raisers raise money. We make it a lot easier for them to raise private capital. We've worked with about 200 clients over the last however many years, and cumulatively, last time we were counting, helped them raise about $350 million and counting in private capital. And the last couple of years, well, actually the last year and a half or so, really started to focus on syndicators and fund managers and kind of professional capital raisers, and help them connect with accredited investors, about 20 a month on average, using a podcast as the connection platform, and is working very, very, very well.
All right, you've got to tell us more. I hear you, but you got to tell us more. So using
well,
the
you're
podcast,
a podcaster. Yeah,
I am a podcaster. I understand.
Yeah.
I confessed. I already confessed, guys. Those of you who are listening, I already confessed to Dave that I don't use my podcast the way he does. So there is obviously, and by the way, I am impressed. I'm just saying this now, Dave. I am impressed. I obviously have, been on other people's podcasts. I have my own podcast, and I watched your system that you have in place for being able to make sure that your podcast, the people you invited to your podcast, shows up. You have the podcast swap platform.
It's called Nag the Hell Out of Them. That's what it's called. That's how we get them to show up.
Exactly. It works really well. No, absolutely. Nagging the hell out of it. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is a level of professionalism that I don't often see behind podcasting. So just this little tip of the iceberg I've managed to see so far speaks of how much you have professionalized the podcast process. I'm not surprised to hear there's probably actually a whole iceberg behind the rest of that professionalism. So tell me more about that.
Well, probably the best way to tell it is how I screwed it up myself with my own podcast.
Sure.
So
I'm sure I'm doing the same thing.
Well, no, you did. You're doing a great job. So my podcast that I originally started was Property Profits Real Estate Podcast, which I just had you on. Started that back in 2018, which in podcast years is a long time ago. And I was doing like everybody else. Like I'd seen what all the other real estate gurus were doing. Like everybody had a podcast. And it was all about, building up the platform and being seen as a thought leader and all that kind of, and hopefully connecting with some big wigs in the business. And hopefully they'll promote your show and you'll grow your audience and you'll end up with a Joe Rogan-ish type audience happening, right? That's all the fantasy going in my head.
Okay, so just describe me. Go ahead, Dave. Now tell me how it's supposed to be done.
Well, so that's what I was doing. So I bumbled around with that, doing an episode every once in a while, trying to get the Kiyosaki's and the Grant Cardones of the world on the show and but getting, some big names, and they'd promptly not promote their episode of my show and, all this kind of stuff. And I was really hoping that I'd grow an audience, and I was really hoping that some of those people in the audience would realize that I was a smart guy. And I was really hoping that some of them would reach out, and hoping that we'd end up doing business. And I was hoping a hell of a lot, and not much was happening with all that hoping.
Yes, I understand. That's like, tell me more. The secret sauce.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So then I was actually listening to somebody else's podcast, which I don't actually do that often, but I was listening to somebody's podcast, and this young guy, annoyingly young and smart, came on and said, you know what? I do podcasting differently. I don't give a crap about the size of my audience. What I want to do is I want to laser focus on interviewing the exact kind of people I want to do business with. And then I want to convert those interviews into sales directly. And if we grow an audience, great. If we don't grow an audience, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to do this on steroids. So instead of doing one episode every week or two or whatever I get around to it, I'm going to make this a major lead generator. And this guy it was insane. He was doing 25 or 30 interviews a week. Okay. And I said, okay, well, that's a little bit much, but I like that idea.
Right.
So I decided to turn my podcast into a direct lead generator. Okay. So instead of going after the Cardones of the world and all that kind of stuff, I was going after, when I was working with mom and pop investors, going after mom and pop real estate investors. And then most recently, we kind of switched gears and we're focusing more on syndicators and fund managers and people in the multifamily space, et cetera, et cetera. So we go out, we find these people that are our ideal avatar, and we invite them to be a guest on the show. So we lead with the giving hand. Hey, we'd love to have you as a guest. Come on over. We'll feature you. We're averaging, it's not huge or anything, but we're averaging thousands of downloads a month. And we'll create a little package of goodies for you and reels and all this kind of content that you can use. And it's great free exposure, blah, blah, blah. So we invite people to be guests on the show. Then the job is, you meet for a couple of minutes before you start the interview, especially if they're kind of new to podcasting. You put them at ease, you get comfortable with them, break the ice. You start the interview, keep it pretty short and sweet. And the goal is, unlike a lot of podcasters where their sneaky goal is to try and highlight themselves via a conversation with their guest. Mm-hmm. My goal is to completely focus on the guest. It's all about them. It's all about making them look good, feel good, sound good, and creating good content, obviously, for your audience at the same time, but it's making that connection. Does that make sense, Christina?
Absolutely.
And then you do want to massage the conversation a little bit towards what it is that you do without pitching it, mm-hmm. but creating a little bit of curiosity then. And then at the end of the podcast, you're still on Zoom with the other person. You're taking a little care of a little bit of housekeeping. Then you kind of circle back to that and pique that curiosity and then try to get people booked into a follow-up discovery call. So do you want me to tell you how this works with syndicators?
Sure. Sounds great.
Yeah. Well, I'll illustrate with a story. So we got one of our clients is a medical doctor and a syndicator. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So most people in that situation, most real estate investors would call, the doctor's syndication show or something like that. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. He wants to interview other medical professionals, most of whom are not involved in real estate, mm-hmm. right? He's looking for LPs. He's looking for potential investors. So if he creates a show all about real estate, that's not going to be attractive to them. So he created his show, Stellar Success Leveling Up for Medical Pros. Okay. So it's all about medical pros and getting better at what you do and leveling up, right? And then we get him booked with 6 or 7 doctors, anesthesiologists, dentists, etc., on his show every week. But we do it very efficiently. So he blocks off a couple of times a week for a couple of hours each time. These interviews are booked in back to back to back, short and sweet. And he does that whole process I just talked about. But then here's the trick, Christina. Here's what he does. So the first part of his interview is usually about, what's their secret sauce professionally? What do they do? Mm-hmm. What sets them apart? That sort of thing. So elevating them there. Mm-hmm. How do they combine personal and professional success? A bit of, how, if they have any balance, how they do that. And then he starts to nudge the conversation gently towards financial success. Right. So Christina, let's pretend I'm him and you're a medical doctor. And let's say you're a plastic surgeon with your own private office. So Christina, it sounds like things are going really, really well with your office, with your practice. Now, a lot of busy doctors in your position, they're making very good income now. Mm-hmm. And they're working very, very hard for that, but they're looking at in the future, keeping that level of income high without having to work so hard for it. What are your thoughts about that, creating income outside of your job?
Oh, definitely. I have a lower back problem. I'm a plastic surgeon. I'm doing surgeries all day long, and I don't know how much longer my back can survive. So I personally have been looking for an alternative of how I could, take some of this capital that we've set aside and get it out of stocks and do something with it that really makes a difference.
My God, I wish they were all that easy. But usually what they say is, I'm reinvesting everything back in the clinic, or I'm dabbling around with stocks and bonds or whatever. So we're not trying to pitch anything here. I'm just trying to poke around a little bit, get an idea if you're doing anything, and if you are, what you're doing. Okay, so just getting the gist of it there. Yeah. And then at the end of the podcast, we've wrapped things up. Dr. Christina, that was great. Good job. That'll be coming out in a few weeks. Now, by the way, you mentioned that you got some investments in stocks and bonds. Let me ask you this. How do you feel about the kind of returns you're getting with those investments? How do you feel about the security and the stability of those investments? Is that something that you're 100% happy with, or is there maybe a little room for improvement there?
Definitely. The cash just sucks. A couple stocks give me dividends, but mostly it just goes up and down with the market. Very, very upsetting.
Yeah, that's normal. It's hard to create that consistent income sometimes when it's so up and down. Well, Dr. Christina, we're doing something really interesting with some other busy doctors just like yourself in alternative investments, specifically with apartment buildings. We're able to get them very good, solid, double-digit returns on their money, and quite often at the same time, get them big tax breaks. Is that something you might be interested in taking a look at?
Absolutely, the tax breaks in particular. Tired of that tax bill.
Boom. Get them booked over into a follow-up discovery call, right? And then in the discovery call, what I would do if I were in that position is I'd walk you through big picture what apartment building investing is all about. I wouldn't even call it multifamily because the average person doesn't know what that means, right? So we invest in apartment buildings Here's what a syndication looks like. Here's how it typically works. And I wouldn't even try to sell you on investing right then. That's a little bit too fast, right?
Yep,
So we go from
definitely.
interview to discovery call. The purpose of the discovery call is to get your pulse, see if this is something you're interested in. So let's say we go through that whole discovery call and I'm showing you what the big benefits are and kind of how it works. Fairly brief. There shouldn't be more than about 15, maybe 20 minutes. And at the end of it, I'll say, answer any questions you have. And then I'll say, so Dr. Christina, what are your thoughts? Is this something that maybe in the future you might be interested in taking a look at seriously?
Yeah, maybe in the future. Sounds interesting.
Okay. Well, would you like this? Would you like me to add you to our VIP investor list so that you get first eyes on any opportunities that come down the pipeline? We don't have anything at the moment, but we regularly do. And if you're on the list, you get to see them first.
I like that. VIP, good words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like to be added to the list?
Yes. I think
Perfect.
I'd love to learn more. Add me to the list.
Okay, perfect. So then here's the trick, Christina. Yeah. Then we go through the know your client questionnaire, right? So they can know your investor questionnaire, confirm that, yeah, you've got the income to qualify as an accredited investor. If you were to invest, how much would you feel comfortable investing? Where would those funds be coming from? Just all that kind of information. And then I get you plunked into the system, Christina. And then it's after that, it's a regular drip of educational content, case studies, testimonials, examples of deals, all this kind of stuff over the next couple of weeks. I patiently drip that stuff out to you. Hopefully you're watching some of it. And then if I've got a deal ready to go, or if I've got a fund that's open, then I'll circle back and say, hey, Christina, you mentioned that you wanted to take a look at an opportunity if we had a good one that kind of fits your criteria. I've got a really good one on the books right now. Would you like to take a look at it? Then boom, book them into an actual presentation where you get them enrolled because they've already told you they want to look at your next deal when it's available.
Yeah. And what you do is you support the back end behind all of that. So clearly your client is the one doing the podcast. Your client is the one that's actually finding the deals. What you do is you support the back end by helping them set up the podcast, to content and topics, to preparing reels.
Yeah, we do all of that. So the biggest pain in the butt of having a podcast is running the darn thing. Like sitting down, talking to people, that's the fun part.
That's the fun part. Yeah.
All the rest of it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So we take care of everything else. So we start by building out the podcast, the platform, the CRMs, the email automations, the text message automation, all that nitpicky type stuff. We build all of that, the branding, the name of the show, the theme of the show, all that kind of stuff. We send our clients a podcast studio in a box so they look and sound like a professional podcaster. Right. And we do all of the back end stuff. So we do the lead generation for them. We go out and find them those 20 accredited investor guests every month, on average about 5 a week. And we do all of the production for them. So the audio production, the video production, the content creation, the release, the communication with the guests, all of that is done behind the scenes so that basically they show up on Monday and Thursday, Tuesday and Wednesday, whatever fits into their schedule, for a couple hours twice a week. Their job is remember to put on a clean shirt and a smile and press record. Everything else needs to care for.
And the rest of it they'll know. That's lovely. So as a podcaster, one of the things I can confirm is that at least a third of my work is actually the upfront work, which is the scheduling, the finding the guests and stuff like that. But 2/3 of the work is the back end work that my social media crew does, which is the editing, the preparing the reels, the follow up, the sending the content out, right? The making the connection. Oh, we've just released your reel. So here's, or your podcast, here's your reels, which you can share with your friends, or, so that there's this process of being engaged with mostly editing the content and then being engaged with actually getting that content out in some way. And for me in particular, it's like creating the reels so that there is both highlighting my guests and highlighting myself, and it adds to my brand. And because a lot of people I work with have brands, it adds to their brand and blah, blah, blah. So there's an exchange in the brand, right? So that's an amazing amount of work. I don't know that anybody who doesn't run a podcast understands how much work you've just described happens. I've had to pay for that work per hour of editing. So I have some idea of the cost of that.
Well, yeah. And then imagine we're doing on average 20 plus of these per month per client.
Yeah, I was only willing to pay for one per week. Just saying. At the pure, like, gee, let me hire the editor, let me hire the VA to be able to manage this, let me hire the editor to be able to edit it, let me hire the social media company and know where to post all of it. I was willing to afford one a week.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
an amazing amount of work that you're offering people. I don't know if your clients can really appreciate how much work you put into that.
Well, thanks. I'm gonna send them to
So then
this
this
part of
exactly.
this.
Just
Yeah. No,
saying.
no, we've got it down. Obviously, we've got it down to a very efficient system and systems, right? So
Right.
there's the lead generation side of things, because that really is the crux of the matter, is getting the right people on the other side of the video with our clients, right? They want to be interviewing their ideal target market. The production side is the other side of it. The mindset side is the other side. We were talking about this on your show.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it's really getting people to consistently do the things they need to do to have a good interview that moves things towards what they're looking to do, b, to have a smooth and a natural way of inviting people onto that discovery call, c, having a good process for doing those discovery calls and not going for the cash too quickly, right? Because
Yeah.
that's like somebody asking somebody to marry you after the second date. Might work every once in a while, but probably not,
I made my
right?
husband
So
wait. I made him wait for a while. I'm like, I get your interest, but no, dude, you got to wait.
that's how most investors are, right? So I mean, we got to have a good, clear process for doing that.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been doing. We've been doing this for our clients for the last just about year and a half now,
Okay.
and it's working well, and it's going good.
Well, and the coaching, like I did, that coaching, because what you're teaching through the coaching is the sales process. How do you
Yeah.
develop trust with somebody that will invest in your syndication? It happens to be real estate based, and syndication based is what they're selling. But to get them to know, like, and trust you, it's a common, know, like, and trust, right? It's used in our
Mm-hmm.
field all the time, right? So getting them to know, like, and trust the syndicator as somebody who's going to be a source for placing, $100,000. I always like to compare it to your fancy car, right? So if you've got a car that's worth $100,000 and you drive up to the valet, you kind of expect them to park it safely, right? And so you need to have a know, like, and trust. And so it sounds like you're coaching them not just on having the actual platform, which is the vehicle, but also the engendering that trust with their potential investor, and probably how to keep that trust cultivated.
That's part of it, most definitely. Yeah. And the nice thing is that's what I love about the whole podcasting. And I'm sure you've seen this over the years that you've been podcasting. It is a real shortcut to the know, like, and trust process,
It is.
right? I mean, and what I love about it is you're leading with the giving hand. You're providing value to your guest first, creating that relationship, creating that rapport, creating a little bit of reciprocity there. So it makes it so much easier and smoother to get that guest on a discovery call versus if we just reached out to them cold via LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I'm a real estate investor. Take a look at my deal," right? Which is what everybody else is doing. So it's
No, it's good.
much better.
Due to time, I'm going to ask you a question that's going to completely derail the topic we've had up till now,
Okay.
right? But I think it'll make sense when I explain it to you. So the name of the show is Real Estate Breakthrough, and the concept is
Yeah.
using real estate to break through to your financial freedom. But I
Mhm.
know you don't invest deeply in real estate, so I'm going to shift the question a little bit. Most real estate investors have the heart of an entrepreneur. We like being able to have our time. We like being in control of our own destiny. We like being able to, I like to pick up my daughter from school and then maybe work when she's, in gymnastics or something, right? So I like the entrepreneurial freedom. You clearly have signed on for not having a job in marketing, but having entrepreneurial freedom and having your own business. Why would you do that? Why would you take on the constant, like, you give up a job to have something where you work even more as an entrepreneur? But clearly there's freedom for you in that. So talk to me about what does that freedom mean to you as an entrepreneur?
Oh, that is a great question. So I haven't known much else, Christina. Really, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 23, basically. Last job I had, I was teaching English for somebody else actually for a little while. So it's been a long time
Yeah.
since I've been an employee. So I'm pretty much unemployable
Yep.
at this point.
Yep.
And it's just being my own boss has always been important to me. Having being in charge of things for myself financially and personally been important. And then at this stage, my wife and I, we really enjoy traveling quite a bit. So there's usually three, maybe four times a year, we're taking an international trip somewhere. So I love the fact that I can set my business up in such a way that I work as much as I want to, and I've got flexibility, and I can leave when I want to. Uh, I don't see myself ever retiring. I think I'd go stir crazy. I think I'd go absolutely nuts. Yeah. So this allows me to be productive, to be doing well financially, and to really contribute in a meaningful way to other people. And that's I've been hanging around real estate folks for a long time, so that's the niche that I focus on.
It makes perfect sense. And you are that little hybrid. I love the hybrid, right? I'm a hybrid, you're a hybrid. I love it, crossing that line between the two. If people want to, they see the wisdom of what you've just described, which of course I do, which is being able to use a podcast to be able to raise funds as a syndicator and being able to engender people's know, like, and trust through the podcast, as well as being able to build your brand. There's so much value in that process. If they want to jump on board, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the best way is to get a free copy of my book, which is How to Get 20 Accredited Investor Meetings Every Month. That walks through this whole process we just chatted about. They can get that at 20accreditedinvestorsbook.com. That's the number 20 accreditedinvestors with an S book.com. Just name an email address. That'll get you the book. That'll also get you on a calendar if you want to have a conversation with me and see how this might work for you.
Dave, thank you so very, very much. I so appreciate it. This is Christina Suter with Real Estate Breakthrough. Hopefully you have found another fascinating guest on this platform. I personally was fascinated with what Dave had to share. Tune in for our next episode.